There we go. Over to you, Rick.
All righty. Well, thanks for having me again, everyone. Always a pleasure to come and show you guys what we're up to in a different part of the world. So this first fly is going to be something that you guys use a lot. It's just going to be a blob style pattern, and it's in North America here. We're quite behind in the times compared to you guys. We're probably only had blobs now for about 10 to 12 years. Before that, we never even knew what the heck they were. Same with boobies. So, but yeah, so this I competed in a lock style competition on the weekend 2 weeks ago here and did quite well. And all the flies I'm going to tie today are flies that I used during the comp. So I'm going to just get going. So I'm just tying on some pink thread here. This is a uni pink fluorescent pink in a 140. Then I'm going to use some of the Uphaven Atomic Egg Chenille in isotope pink. So things have changed a little bit for me since the last time I presented for you guys. I actually left the Zemperfly Pro team, and I'm now on with the Uphaven Pro team.
What size hook is that, please,
Well,
Rick?
just tying in my egg chenille as a bit of a tail. And then I'm going to go with the, there we I got to get it the right way. Pure Blob Fritz and fluorescent pink from Uphaven.
What size hook is it, Rick?
Oh, sorry, yeah, I should have done that first. It's a Hens BL 510 and a size 8. I do it in an 8, 10, and a 12. But then I adjust the size of my chenille as well, because this is 6 mil. I just like even though I'm with the Arex Pro team, I really like. There's certain hooks from Hens I like. This is one of them. I almost all my blobs I do on these the 510s. They're nice heavy wire, and I like the hook gap. It's nice and open, so when you've got these longer chenilles, it doesn't close up that hook gap as much.
So many times. Then in the end, I say, just leave me alone with it.
So she's moaning about you moaning. I've heard you say that before.
So I'm just going to wrap in 3 wraps, right tight to each other.
Video, see what happens on that. Try to start video, see what happens on that.
Tie that off. Just make sure that's all slicked back and anything loose is tied down. And now I'm going to go with the Blob Fritz in candy. Just expose my center core. Get that tied in nice. Now I tie these with and without beads for different situations. So depending where I'm fishing, I know during the comp, we were actually catching almost all of our fish in 2 to 4 feet of water. So we were using the unweighted, but I really like this one as well. It does well in that 6 to 12 feet, just a little bit more, and it'll undulate a little bit more too because of that weight, right? So, and we were super fast, roly-poly stripping. Pretty well everything we were using was super fast. So just stroke it all back. It's your whip finisher. Full turn whip finish. Take a little bit of my head cement. And I just put it right on my thread. Cut that off. And then I'll cut my tail a little bit shorter because I don't want it too long. And there it is. That's the finished pinky blob. So, like I said, it's nothing that you guys, like you guys over there, don't know. But it is, it's something that worked really well here in the fall. I find it doesn't work the greatest in the spring, but in the fall, it is a deadly pattern. And, the color combination is phenomenal. So. Probably no questions on that one. It's pretty, like I said, pretty simple, and pretty standard for your guys's waters over there.
Blobs catch a lot of
But
fish.
over here, there's still a lot of stigma around blobs and boobies. A lot of the fly guys will, that's not fly fishing, that's lures, that, whatever, right? So. Okay, so.
Where do you have it
I'll
on
get
the
on.
cast, Rick?
Sorry?
Where do you fish it on the cast?
We only are in British Columbia here. We're only allowed one fly.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. So in Alberta, when I was fishing there, it all depended which way, what I was fishing for. But I'd usually fish this on the point in Alberta when I was allowed 3 flies. But unfortunately, this province is stupid and they allow us 2 rods out at once, but 1 fly on each rod. It's silly, but it is the way it is. So it all depends. But here, since we're only allowed 1 fly, I was fishing this on a type 1 sink tip. I had a 6-foot type 1 sink tip, and I was casting it into 2 to 4 feet of water, letting it sink for about 5 seconds, and then super fast retrieve. So and there's the here's the version without the bead head, right? So, okay, let us. I'm just gonna make some noise. I'm gonna get my little vacuum and clean up that gunk. Okay, so now I don't know about for you guys, but this time of year over here, back swimmers, water boatmen are absolutely killer. They're definitely the go-to thing, especially when you're on a lake and all of a sudden there's a bunch of boatmen flying around and landing in your boat and stuff. You know it's time to put on one of these little buggers. So it's too small of a hook. I want it a little bit bigger so you guys can see easier. It'll be a bigger one than I would normally tie, but it's just easier for you guys to see it. So, okay. So this is going to be a Penn's BL 333 in a size 10. And then I will use, where's my olive nano silk. Oh, sorry, I forgot. I always put a red glass bead on almost every one of my boatmen. So I just forgot to put that on. If I can get one to work, it'll be great. Okay. So we'll try that again. So just starting my This is Semperfli Nano Silk 12-aught and olive. Yeah. Just a couple of little pieces of flash. I like just straight clear flash or pearl flash. It can be straight, it can be crinkled, up to you. In this case, I actually forgot to take the flash. Oh, actually, no, flash is right here. Nope, I forgot to take the flash out. That's okay. I'll use the straight. I prefer the crinkle flash myself, but this will work. And this one I did really, really well with during the comp on right over the weeds. We've got weeds in especially one of the lakes that are that come up from 15 feet deep, and they're about 12 feet tall. So you're just putting on a floating line with this and just dragging this thing right over top of those weeds. So now I'm going to use some Hen's Pearl Scudback. Show you the packaging in a second. So Pearl Scudback, that's what it looks like. I just tie that in at the front. Come on back. Keeping it obviously right on top. Right back to the tail. Just keep that out of the way. Not too worried about these little stragglers, but I'll get them down anyway. Then I take some straggle string in either olive, copper brown, or another one I really like is just the straight pearl. It gives that that illusion of that air bubble that the boatmen are well known for, that they hold under their bellies. But there's enough of the shine in this olive one that'll represent that as well, plus giving it a bit more of a natural look as on top of it, right? So now I just keep that out of the way for now. Then I'll take my legs. Just going to come back a bit. I'm going to tie a little half hitch into my legs here. Just making a loop, and then I'm just going to put that over and just find where I want to put my legs, about there. Just give them a nice tighten. Now, they're not going to be perfect. I then put them the way I want them. And I want these swept, I want them either straight out or slightly swept forward. And the reason for that is I want them to kind of undulate as I'm pulling them. So this takes a little bit of finicking around here, playing around just to make sure that they do end up sitting the way you want them. But usually don't use such a long length. But there we go. And then I'll tie right over top. Just make sure these guys are kind of like that. So you see that they're kind of going forward right now. Now I'll cut them to roughly length. They're going to be shorter than that, but I'm just so they're a little bit more easily handled. Now I will stroke these back a little bit once I bring that scud back over. But so now keep that out of the way. And I just bring my straggle string over, making sure I'm not trapping those legs. And then I go over those legs and behind those legs. Try to, again, force them forward. This one doesn't want to really cooperate today, but of course it doesn't when you're doing the presentation, right? There we go. Just come forward. Turn that off. And these again were stripped super fast, but only short little, maybe 3-inch little strips, just really fast. Now I just lay this scud back over top. And I tie these in several different ways. I'll tie them with different colored legs. I'll tie them with different colored scud back. I'll tie them with the legs a little bit more forward, like this is about centered. Sometimes I'll tie them a little more forward so they're closer to the eye. I'll tie several different versions of it. But I found that the green legs with the lighter green scud back, the one that I'm using now, compared to the darker, which is this one. This one works at times as well, but this version I found is the best. This one I could have actually put the leg slightly more forward, but I'll fish the heck out of this one too. So now the only big thing is you got to make sure the legs are too long, otherwise they'll spin like crazy. So usually what I do is I'll just no stretch, pull them forward, and then I'll cut them just slightly longer than the eye. And that's it. So that's the fly right there. Really simple. I should have put some head cement in. I didn't, but super simple fly. And like I said, I tie them in with the dark scud back as well. But I always have a red bead. Sometimes I'll even bring this scud back up and over the red bead, so it's only visible. The red is only visible from the bottom. But usually this is the way I'll do it. This is my preferred way of doing it. And surprisingly, this stuff, even though it's layers, you can see how it's like pieces. Oh, sorry. Right. And it kind of looks like it frays a bit when you cut it. Just I'll show you when there. It's kind of frayed, right? Yeah, it's surprisingly durable. The fish, they'll attack this thing, they'll hit it hard, but it's surprisingly durable. Their teeth don't seem to rip it as much as I figured it would. It's a pretty good material, and I love the little sheen that it gives off, right? Like that shine. So actually just give me 1 second. I'm just gonna grab something.
For you guys that joined late, if you notice, Rick is using 2 cameras. So if you click on his picture with the vice in the photograph, and then click on the 3 little dots, you can pin it center screen. So even though he's talking and it'd go back to his other one, the vice will stay center screen. So there, just an example of some of the different versions of the Boatman I tie with the same material. So there's this one here is pretty well the same, but it's with the dark back and the clear underbody. So yeah. And at times those chartreuse ones do really, really well. These guys up here. These ones. So, all right. Next, clean this up and then we'll move on to the next fly. Anybody got any questions? No.
Hi, yeah. What was the leg material? Is it rubber or silicone?
No, it's just rubber silly legs. Just
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, these are just barred. I prefer the round, the round legs like these. I do use sometimes I use the silly legs from Semperfly and stuff, but they're flat. And I prefer the movement on the round ones. I don't know. It just I found the flat ones, like the Semperfly ones, they're great for certain things, but for boatmen, I find that they when you're casting them or when you're retrieving them, that because they're flat, they want to spin. It's just something I noticed when I was stripping it in and then doing the hang and then lifting it up. You could see them spinning as they came up. And then I tried it with this round material, and it doesn't spin as much. So boatmen are always notorious for wanting to spin if you don't have the legs balanced properly. If they're like one side's longer than the other, they're notorious to spin when you retrieve them. So okay. Any other questions? All right. So now this is it's a pretty simple fly. It's nothing really special, but it's a cross between a couple of different flies, if you want to say that. I came up with it, whatever. It's just a variation of other flies, but it's basically a variation of a peeping caddis and a Carey Special. I call it my Peeping Carey. So this thing did extremely well for me in the lock style. Again, this was fished again in that 2 to 6 feet, but I've done well with this in up to 12 feet of water. Stripped sometimes really, really fast, sometimes slow. It just all depends on what the fish want. But I found that stripping this thing quicker is usually the better. So the hook is a Hens BL254N barbless nymph. Going to use some Semperfly Nano Silk again in 12-aught in olive. It's funny. I usually find, at least here, I don't know about in the UK, but here in Western Canada, in the fall, blacks and really shiny, like oranges and stuff for blobs, but black flies, black leeches, black nymphs are usually the ticket. This year, black just does not work at all. Green, they want olive, olive, olive. Everywhere I've gone to like 15 different lakes in the last 2 weeks, and it's all olive, olive, olive everywhere I went. So now we've had really weird weather patterns here too, so maybe that's got something to do with it. I don't know. So I'm just tying in some floss, some chartreuse floss. I'm just going to tie it right back to that bend. And just come forward a bit. And I'm making the air quotes, the peeping part. So I'm just going to go forward 2-3 turns, backwards, back over top of that. I want a nice bulge chartreuse in the back here. Come to about there. I'll come back. Tie that in. Right, and then usually what I like to do here, see if I can get this stuff not to run all over my table like it did last time, is just give it just a dab of a UV resin. It's more to protect the loss, because opposite of that last material, floss, as you guys know, will fray like crazy if it gets onto a fish's tooth, right? So I'm just putting a little bit of UV resin on just to coat it. Normally when I'm tying up a bunch of these, like I'll tie up a dozen at a time, I'll coat them all with UV resin, and then I'll coat them with some Sally Hansen's Hard as Nails and let them sit. So I'll do up a dozen to this point, and then I'll continue. So, alrighty. So, next, I'm going to use some Hen's Peacock dubbing. Now you can use regular peacock hurl if you like. I prefer the peacock dubbing myself. I find hurl gets pulled apart by the trout teeth too quickly. So I'm going to be using the number 5 right here where my finger is. That one right there. It's kind of a olive peacock. It gives it a little bit of sparkle, a little bit of shine. Right. So right. Yes. Sorry, guys, I forgot one thing. I put. No, that's not the right one. I had everything organized into little Ziploc bags, but looks like I lost one. That's okay. This will work. So I'm going to put some silver wire. Normally I use 0.2 mil, but oh, there it is right there. There it is. I like it a little bit more heavy wire for this one. So some 0.2 mil silver. Just tie right back to that bulge of material. I pulled out on me. Just give me a second. Wax my thread. Not that you guys don't know, but nano silk's notorious for being slippery. So any of these GSPs, I usually try to wax. So now we'll start that again. So a dubbing. Just get my dubbing started. I'm going to keep it fairly thin body. I don't want a crazy big body. This has been one of my favorite stillwater flies for probably the last 6-8 years now. It's one that's always given me fairly good success. And it did extremely well for me, like I said, in the pump last 2 weekends ago. So, okay. Now I'll go just opposite. Three to 4 turns. It's 2 reasons here. Is one, it gives a little bit of a definition. More than anything, it keeps that dubbing in there. But now I will brush that out, make it nice and buggy looking. So you will disappear some of that silver, which is fine with me. Now, some mallard barred olive, a light olive, sorry. Now this might take me a minute because this package, I just bought it and all the feathers are like this big. So I gotta hunt through it to find a decent size. That'll do. That shouldn't take me as long as I thought it would. So I'm just gonna strip off the underfluff just so it's out of the way. And then I will grab my tackle plier and just grab the center, scoop that all back, just to expose a tie-in point. Tie that in. And I going right back to that dubbing because I want it to kind of push it out a bit, right? I want it to flare that out. Now, once it gets wet, this lays down a lot, but because of the material, it also pulsates really nicely. So aqua plier. Just make sure my material's all stroking backwards. And depending on the feather, I'll do anywhere between 2 and 4 wraps. This one looks like I'll probably do maybe 2 to 3. I don't want it too thick, and sometimes I'll just strip off. If I know it's too thick, I'll just strip off one side. So, just popped out on me. Just hold on, that just popped out. There we go. I do this without the hackle pliers. I hate hackle pliers, but sometimes when you got big old fat fingers, you don't have a choice. So that'll do. Just going to strip off some of that excess there. Tie that in. Like I said, it's nothing special. It's just I'm not sure what you guys would call it over there, but here we've called a fly that doesn't have the green butt. We've called it a Carey Special. And we tie them in black, red, green, several different colors, but without that butt section, right? So, and without the wire as well. It's just a dubbing or a peacock and the mallard flank. So basically cut that out of there, get out of the way. Now brush this out a bit. One more whip finish. Again, this one was fished on either a type 1 sink tip or a hover. And again, fairly fast strips, but I've also done very well with this thing. Just slow, just a couple of pops, and then let it sit, and then a little figure 8, and then a pop, right? So I just like brushing it forward just to break up those feather fibers, and then bring it back again. And that's it. Super simple. Peeping Carey. Here's what it looks like when it's wet. There's another one I got. So when it's wet, it gets a nice slick back, wet, nymphy kind of look. Right? So pulsates really well. That mallard will really pulsate. And that little green butt is a hot spot instead of having a hot spot at the front. So like I said, nothing spectacularly special, but extremely, extremely effective. Yeah. So any questions on that one?
They're all quiet.
Well, Sorry, go ahead.
They're all quiet tonight.
I was just gonna say, you've been doing something right. And there's no question to ask, or I'm really sucking. And nobody wants to ask anything. Oh, good. Okay, so let me clean this up and then I'll get the next fly going. And the next fly here is something I started doing about oh, that just blew up that package. I started doing about 3 years ago, and that's a damselfly pattern. And I tie all my damselflies this way now. Like 99% of them. I have one or two that I tie a little bit different, but ever since I started doing this and fishing this way, it's just been a game changer for me. Again, on the waters here. Can't see why it wouldn't be there, but we will see. Yuppie. I don't know if you guys have them or not at your benches, but this is a little, I don't know if you guys can, just a little vacuum. This thing is awesome. It just cleans up so well. Never have to worry about all this garbage in your face. So, okay, so on to my little damsel here. So there is literally 2 ingredients. 1 is an eye. 2, CDC. That's it. So, and obviously the hook. So, this is a Arex FW 560 traditional nymph, size 12. And I use the same olive 12-aught that I've been using. Just going to run it through my wax to make sure, because it's the one thing I've noticed about this fly. If you don't wax it or don't glue it on the base, it'll turn on you. And that's obviously not what you want. So I like making sure I either wax it or put just a dab of a crazy glue. So just gonna get one of my little eyes. Just making sure I got no little bump on the end of the eye there. I'm going to come back about 1 to 2 eyes back, hook eyes back, and just tie that in. Obviously, want to make sure that's fairly centered on that plastic. Now, I do have I was looking for them yesterday when I was starting to get all this stuff put together for your guys' presentation here. I've got a set of eyes that are kind of a transparent green. That I like even better. They just seem a little bit more natural for this pattern, but I couldn't find where I put them. So I've been doing so much travel all around North America and like down to Mexico and almost Guatemala and all that. I may have left it somewhere. I don't know. So now I'll tie this in several different colors. My favorite is straight olive CDC. It's kind of an olivey brown. I do tie them in a light olive or almost yellow. I'll tie them in a chartreuse. Again, I don't know about the UK waters, but here I've got several pictures of damsels swimming that are nuclear chartreuse. Like they grew up in Chernobyl. They're just like super bright. So I'll tie them in those colors, and I'll tie them in a brown as well. But my go-to is definitely this olive. So this is whatever CDC you guys like, but this one is just a hen's CDC again. As you can see, it's well-used package. It's almost empty. I love hen CDC. For what we can get here in North America for CDC, it's probably the best. But we don't have the selection on this kind of stuff that you guys do. So I'm just trying to find a couple of nice little bushy little pieces that are not too straight cut on the ends. Like some of these are kind of too straight. I'm just going to bundle a couple of pieces together, and this is going to be my tail. It's about like there. Yeah, so we'll tie the whole thing in. It's perfect. Flip that stuff back and over. This is quite a fluffy, bushy thing looking, but when it's wet, it's super slick and streamlined like a damsel. And love the reason I tried it with CDC is because I know CDC picks up that air bubbles and picks up the light. And man, like I said, this for me, for damsel time, which here is June and July, is just, this thing was just an absolute game changer over the last 6 years. So this is a 0.1 silver wire I just tied in. So I'm just gonna move my camera back just a bit. It just looks a little blurry to me. There. So, 0.1 a bright silver wire, just to make it because I'm gonna dub the CDC on now, and I just want to make sure that it's just held a little bit better, right? So now again, CDC is a bit slippery, so wax, wax, wax. And now I'm just going to get some of the really fluffy little pieces that are there. Just kind of tear it off of the stem, make it just a little pile on my desk without the stem. Because I just want the little fluffy pieces, right? I don't want the actual stem. So we try to find see this one here? This is one I was talking about. I don't like that for the tail. You see how it's been cut? Sorry, the end. I don't like that for the tail because nothing in nature is straight, right? So why would I want to use a? That's why I always say, and I think a lot of you guys know, never cut anything with a scissor. And nothing in nature is straight. Nothing in nature is 90 degrees. So okay, so got a little pile of CDC. I'm just loosely dubbing it, not crazy tight. Again, like I said, this looks a lot fluffier than it actually is when it gets wet. Now we'll counter wrap my wire. Again, you're not going to really see this. This is just more to help hold that CDC in. And I'm just going to come right in front of that eye, tie that off. Okay, one last step. My handy dandy material clip. So Stoneful makes some, a bunch of different companies make some. I bought them. I always go back to this one, which is just a bag clip from the dollar store. I tell you, almost 99% of the time, that's the one I use. So now I'm just going to find one really good feather or two if I can't find a really good one. It's not too bad. Here, and I'll do two. I'm just preparing it. Sorry, you can't see it, but I have to prepare this kind of on my desk. I'll show you once I've got it in the material clip. But so I'm just stroking the material backs just so it sticks out, right? And then I'm going to lay this down on my desk. I'll get it into a material clip. It's another reason I like these so much. They're really sharp, right? And I can lay the stuff right on my desk and just go right underneath them. So now I'm just going to cut out the stem. A bit of a dubbing loop here. Wax my thread. Dubbing spinner out. My spinner came out. Patch that in. Give it a bit of a spin. I don't want a ton here. Just want a kind of a waft of this longer fibers to act kind of as your legs. So I go kind of figure eight through the eyes and then in behind, stroke the material back, front, stroke the material back, back. Just make sure you try not to catch any of it in. Cut off my dubbing loop. Then I'll take my brush and I'll just kind of just brush it out, just so there's none of those as few fibers as possible trapped. Could have put a little bit more on for my taste, but I'm not going to try to put another loop in there. I'll show you another one that I did yesterday in a second. It's got just a little bit more in it. I just build up myself a little head here. Cut that off. And then I don't want these fibers too long. So I'll kind of stroke them back and just pinch off. Because I mean, the legs on a damsel aren't that long, right? So here's another one I did yesterday. And this one, I only fish pretty well in one way, and that is floating line. And then I usually try to park my boat in the weeds, like in the shoreline weeds. There you go. So that's more like how I like it. This one I found it's I didn't put quite enough CDC in, the one I just tied for you guys, but so this is the one how I more like it more. And like I said, I cast this on a floating line. I park right in the weeds, right along the weed, the bulrush or whatever, and I'll cast away from it, and I'll slowly figure eight with a odd little pop, right? Figure eight, little pop, and then let it sit really slow. And I want this to just be that half an inch to 2 inches below the surface. I don't want this to sink at all. So a lot of times I'll use a floating line with about a 10-foot mono tippet. Because again, I don't want the fluorocarbon to sink this. I want this to stay as close to the top as possible. The strikes on this are not vicious in any way. They're more of a sip. They just kind of come up and either sip it or they'll take and turn away with it, right? So be ready. It's not an aggressive smack like a leech or anything. So, but yeah, so that's I call my CDC Damsel. Like I said, my go-to damsel fly nowadays. And when this gets wet, like I said, it's not as puffy, right? It slicks down quite nicely and looks nice and thin like a damsel does, right? And then when this moves through the water, when you're given that pop, that CDC will pulsate, right? So there you go. Any questions on that one?
The beads, Rick. Where'd you get them beads from?
These are what brand is it again? They're just plastic, right? They're just plastic eyes. Jesus, who are they? Umpqua Feather Merchants.
So they're not heavy then. So
no, they're just plastic. There's no weight to them. There's like none. It's I don't want any weight to this. That's why I even sometimes, instead of using the nymph hook, I'll use a dry fly hook. I want thin wire. I don't want any weight. That's why I use only the 0.1 silver wire for the rib. Sometimes I won't even use wire. I'll use where is it? I just had it. Instead of wire for the rib, I'll use I don't know where I put it. I'll use like a flashaboo, flat flashaboo. I don't want any weight on this fly. Damsel flies, when they're migrating to become an adult, they'll come up straight up in the water column, and then they'll swim horizontally just below the surface. You'll see them all the time when you're on lakes. They're just kind of swimming almost like a minnow just below the surface. So that's why I park my boat at the weeds. I don't cast to the weeds and strip away. I park in the weeds and cast away from it and strip towards, because that's the natural progression of a damselfly. When they come up, they go across, they're looking for weeds and trees and anchor ropes and whatever they can find to crawl out to hatch, right? So you mimic that by stripping towards the weeds, not away. They don't swim away from the weeds. They want to go to the weeds, right? So, but yeah, this is just plastic. That's all it is. And same with the other ones I was talking about. They're a little bit smaller than, and they're plastic, but they're kind of a pearlescent, almost, I don't know, it's bluey green, and it kind of see-through, and I like them even better.
Derek, those are available, or used to be available, from James McDonald at the Fly Tying Company.
Did they?
Oh, the eyes?
Yeah, the eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, these. Yeah. I know he gave me some time ago. I don't know whether he still stocks them, but yeah, he used to.
They're, at least here, they're not hard to find. They're plastic dumble eyes. That's all they are.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So there's several companies that make them. These just happen to be Umpqua. I know HMH makes them as well. There's a bunch of different suppliers that make them. Again, I love doing these things for you guys, but that's the one downfall with this is you guys have different suppliers than we do over here. Even though, like as an example, I'm now with Uphaven as a consultant on their team. Try to find Uphaven products here in Canada. Good luck, right? Over there, they're probably everywhere, right? It's even Zemperfly here is hard to find, right? So it's just different countries do different things in different ways, right? So that kind of thing I find at every fly shop. Every fly shop carries a plastic eyes. I'm just going to vacuum again, guys. That CDC gets everywhere. But yeah, so you can see what I mean by how nicely that slicks down. And if you've got a fiber that's a little too long in the tail, just snip it off with your like rip it off. Don't cut it. But again, you can see how natural that looks when it's in the water. It just slicks down really nice. And if you ever go on YouTube and look for a damselfly nymph swimming, and they're just subsurface, and they kind of swim like a fry, right, back and forth. They just use their tail as a tail, right? So, all right. Anything else on that one, guys?
Happy with that?
Okay. This is by far my favorite leech pattern. It works all the time, but dusk seems to be just the time that it explodes. Just as that sun is going down, especially here where we have a lot of mountains and stuff like that, where our lakes are. Like the lake I'm going to fish this afternoon, I'm going to fish it too dark, and it's at 4,100 feet, so it's high elevation, right in the mountains. And when that sun it's not sundown yet, but when that sun goes right just under that, behind the mountain, oh, these leeches just start going on fire. So I'm just putting a bead on. So this is a Hens BL333 in a size 10. Just a short shank nymph hook. I don't want too long of a shank on these. And this is a 1/8, just a regular brass bead, just black brass bead. I don't like using the tungsten on them. I find they undulate too much. And I actually prefer, I ran out, but I actually prefer a flat black bead on these, not a shiny black. I like a flat black. So I am going to be using, right there. Going to be using black nano silk. And for the tail and the body, Arizona semi-seal in black red. And then for the collar, hen's hair dubbing in the red, in the number 9. This is the hair dubbing plus, sorry, not the hair dubbing. Hair dubbing doesn't have the sparkle. The hair dubbing plus does. This is by far, out of any brand, and I'm not associated with these guys, but I'm by far my favorite dubbing, period, of any dubbing I've ever found. This hair dubbing plus is absolutely amazing. So, okay. Same thing. I'm going to wax my thread before I start it because I find, again, these leeches have a tendency of spinning. The dubbed leeches have a tendency of spinning if they're not anchored well to your hook. Especially since I'm going to be pretty aggressive with this thing. In a minute here, I just got to adjust my bobbin. Tension. I don't know if you guys seen these bobbins yet. These are, oh, there you go. I'll bring it out a bit. These are from the Flysmith. These are amazing bobbins. They're a little on the heavy side if you like a heavier bobbin, but really good bobbins. I just got this one a couple weeks ago, and I've been tying on the stone foes for years and absolutely love them. But he sent me this. It's like, hey, that's nice. Same with these scissors, are from him as well. But so, just starting my. This is again 12-aught. Seems to be that 12-aught's my go-to thread size nowadays. So I'm just going to come back to the bend. Come back forward all the way to the front of the bead. Get out my semi-seal here. And I'm just going to see if I can show you guys. I'll come out a bit. I'm just going to pull the material out. So I want it to be facing the same way. And then I'm stacking it on my bench. And I'll do it again. I pull it out so it's the same way. And I'm stacking it on top of each other because I want all the materials to go the same way, same direction. So there's a bit of a bundle. Okay. I'm just going to kind of roll this in my hand a bit just to get it into the bundle I like. And I'm going to tie it in about the length I want it, roughly. Now, this bundle is bigger than I want it to be at the end, but once you're tied in, some of this will get pulled out. So I always make a bigger bundle than I want. So about there, tie that in right behind the bead. And then I'm going to flip that over top of it, all the way back to where I want it. Now, I do this in 2 different ways. Like for the tail, I will lift and go under and back over and under and back over. And that'll help it from not fouling. Or I'll tie a little, like I'll do like 20 or 30 wraps before I put it on and create that little bulge. So now I'm just going to lightly pull any material that's not in there, that didn't get caught in, right? And if it's really long, which that is, I'm just going to, again, just go in there, pinch, and just pull off some of that material. So that's the nice thing with having all dubbed leeches or having marabou tails. I always tie them longer. I was taught this by actually the only Gaia certified tying instructor in all of Canada. Just tie it longer. You can always pinch it off at the lake, right? But you can't add. So I always make sure mine's a little longer. So dubbing loop. Here's my spinner. That in. A little bit of wax. I was again competing in the BC Lockstyle Championships on the weekend, and one of the guys I was fishing with on the Lundbaum session, that's a lake here called Lundbaum. He's our assistant captain for Team Canada. That's actually coming over to, I think it's the Commonwealths that are in Scotland next year. So I was fishing with Stanton, and he saw this fly in the water, and he's like, "Oh, I gotta have that." So I gave him a few of them, obviously, because I'm not at that level competition wise. So again, I've just taken a bunch of my dubbing, I've stacked it in the same direction. You can see how the fibers are kind of going the same direction. And I'm going to put that into my dubbing loop. And I'm going to spread that out. Good spin. It's another reason I love using Nano Silk GSPs is you can spin your thread out of it and they don't break. So I'm gonna take my dubbing brush. Make a nice little dubbing dubbing brush there. And as I go, I'm going to make sure I stroke all this material back as I go forward. It's going to look ugly before it looks nice. Always does. These all dub leeches are never pretty when you're tying them. So, okay, and I'll do one more right behind the bead. I got a question for you guys, for all of you. So let me get this finished. I'll show you my question is. Something that's been irritating me. I love this Stoneful dubbing spinner. I don't know if you guys know this one, but it's a two-piece. Here, I'll actually show you guys up here. It's a two-piece dubbing spinner with a handle and actually it doesn't show there. So here, this one. And it can come apart, so you can just use this piece like when you're wrapping. But lately, when I'm spinning it, it wants to always fall off. It's not as tight as it used to be in the bearing. So, yeah, I'm not sure what to do about it. Does anybody have an idea? So, other than putting Loctite in there. So I'm just gonna.
Rick, the Stonefo one that I've got is all one piece, doesn't come apart.
Yes, there's two different ones. This one is the spinner that comes apart. It's just a bearing on the inside. See that?
Yeah. I've got almost the exact same one, but it doesn't come apart.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this one comes apart, so you can use it like this to spin it, and then you can pull the handle off, so it's not so long to wrap, right? But I find that now when I'm spinning it, it wants to pop off all the time. So
yeah,
I do have. I mean, honestly, this is the one I prefer anyway. The straight out, just old school, heavy weighted spinner, right? But okay. So I'm just gonna do 3 to 4 turn whip finish, another 3 to 4 turn whip finish. There's a reason I do it twice is because in case I end up pulling one set out. But then my dubbing brush, and I'm going to be pretty violent here. I saw a comment pop up there, something about weighted flies in Lockstyle. I saw it come up on the written comments there. I'm not sure what the rulings are there, but I know here for Lockstyle competition, for the rules here, we're allowed up to a 4 mil bead. So anything over 4 mil, we're not allowed. And there's actual measuring tools attached to the fish trough. that you can measure the size of the beads. So again, I pulled it out nice and slick. Now I'm going to make another little dubbing loop. And this is what really makes this fly stand out. And I'm going to use my other dubbing spinner just because I don't need that other one to fly around on me. And like I said, this is the red number 9 of the Hens Dubbing Plus, Hair Dubbing Plus, sorry. It is, well, it's hair dubbing, rabbit, and they just add some cut up sparkle in it. And this stuff is just, like I said, it's become easily by far my most used and my favorite dubbing, period. It's so soft and supple and beautiful colors. So I'm not picking much, just a little piece here. Putting it in my dubbing loop again, spreading that out just so it doesn't end up in a big pile. And then to grab my thread, my spinner, twist. Do it again. Okay. And now, again, same thing as I did earlier. I'm just going to wrap this around as a collar. And I'm going to use this all up. Could have even used a touch more, but only a touch. And I give that a really good pull down because it kind of sucks into that into the bead. You can actually feel it sucking in when you pull really tight. And I'm just going to get some sallies. You can't really put it on after. Just get in there. So I don't use store-bought, fly shop bought head cement ever. I only use Sally Hansen's Hard as Nails. It's the same stuff and it's a quarter of the price. So and then again with the brush, just blend that in so it's that red color kind of blends into that, and you just get that odd little red flash. But like I said, a little bit more than that is how I like it. Just give me a sec. Grabbing my fly box, show you guys. So I prefer just a little bit more like this one. But again, it's always good to have multiple versions. But you see how that's got a bit more of a color? That's how I really like it. That's my absolute go-to. That's a bit of a bigger one too, longer. Right? So, and I'll tie these in 8s, 10s, 12s, and sometimes even 14s, and I'll put them on a jig hook. And I'll put them under a strike indicator, bung, whatever you guys call them. Right? And then just let it sit there and just give it the odd, like, just do a figure 8, almost like a buzzer type retrieve figure 8, and then pop, and then leave it sit. And then again, same thing. And I'll tie them like a quarter of that size. Like it'll be about that long altogether on a jig hook or on a balanced style. So, but yeah, when this gets wet, it's really hard to see on camera, but when this is especially in the water, it undulates so well. This material just moves and pulsates, and right. So there you go. Anything else? Any questions?
Most are on mute.
I didn't think I'd get through all 5 flies, but I'm done.
Thank you very much, Rick. Much
You're welcome. I can
appreciated.
show you guys a couple of other things just in the
Yeah,
same
go for
vein,
it, Rick.
the same vein as that.
Oh,
Right.
wow, yeah.
So, and you see those little red ones right there? Those I put under these ones, these ones, and these ones down below. Those are the ones I put under an indicator or under a bung.
What did you say the material was, Rick?
Which one?
The main for the tail and the body.
It's Arizona semi-seal in black red. Yeah. Just Arizona semi-seal dubbing in black red. That's all it is.
I like
Right,
the
and then-
purple ones. The
Oh,
purple
yeah,
ones.
and that's the same thing again. It's Arizona semi-seal in pink, and then again the hair dubbing plus in purple.
What's that in yellow? To the left.
One there.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys probably, I'm pretty sure you guys don't have them over there. We have huge marl shoals. So marl is kind of a tan colored mud, and that they're very well known to be our best producers for chironomids and buzzers. But leeches in our lakes over here will take on the color of the substrate. So some leeches will turn tan colored, some leeches will turn black, some leeches will turn brown, molded colors. So these I tie up for those marl shoal lakes, those lakes that have that tan colored mud on the bottom. That's what I tie that up for.
Right. Thank you.
And then so I got some browns and coppers and then I get into some that's this all CDC one, that tan colored one, the first one there. Those are all CDC, and then there's some minky flies, and then I don't know if you guys use them over there, but these are absolutely crazy deadly here. The vampire leech, these ones, the one with the green heads and the orange heads, and then there's some cormorants up top. So, but yeah. Oh, and then some black boobies.
Oh, good.
And then this is probably the most popular fly over here right now. And if you guys don't have them, start tying them because they're just deadly. And there, oh, wrong way. The pumpkin head. These things catch more fish in British Columbia than any other fly, period. And we tie them in olive green with orange hackle and an orange beadhead. And we tie them in brown with a orange hackle and an orange beadhead, and then just brown dubbing on that one and olive dubbing on the other. So, yeah. Let's see if I can show you anything else, and then I'll let you guys go, because then I'm going fishing.
Yeah.
Just one question, please. What is the first fly you're going to tie on tonight?
Tonight?
When you go fishing?
Honestly, probably this guy right here. I was just going to show you guys because this is the one that I caught more than half of my fish in the competition on. Is that one right there with the orange, the yellow biot tail? Sorry, that one right there.
Got it.
That's probably going to be my number one to start, and then as the sun starts going down, this guy's going on
Okay.
for sure. Damsels are not around right now. I mean, they're a staple. So, I mean, trout here, fish, they'll feed on them. I use weighted damselflies, ice fishing. So, and same with dragonflies. So they're a staple here year round, but they're not really moving around and hatching and migrating right now. So the fish aren't looking for that. They're looking for big meals. So leeches are heavy on the diet right now this time of year. So are blobs. Like blobs are a good one when they're not really feeding on anything. They just let's piss them off fly, right? Get them mad. And a lot of our lakes here are also full of gammarus shrimp, freshwater scuds, like loaded with them. So we always have a lot of wrong way, a lot of scud patterns with us, right? So Like the last few fish I pumped, they were throwing, like when you got them into the boat and into the fish trough, they were puking up scuds, right? There's so many. So I think that's why that yellow-tailed kind of, it's not really a dabbler, but kind of like a dabbler that I showed you with the goose bite. I think that's why that one was working so well. I think they were taking it for a scud with a hot spot. So
Rick, fantastic demonstration. Thank you ever so much. And tight lines.
yep, tight lines, guys, and enjoy your. I'm jealous of your grayling fishing because we don't have that around here. So it's a fish that's on my bucket list. So if I ever make it to the UK, I'm going to be hitting you guys all up to take me out.
Up for that.
All righty, guys. Tight lines.
Cheers, Rick.
Thank you.
Care.